now moving on to the mains oriented topics today. So, the first topic that we are going to, the first article that we are going to discuss is on Delhi air pollution, and Delhi cannot blame it on the farmers now, right. So, the data on farm fires, the stubble burning recently is making a lot of buzz. Even the Supreme Court has asked the government that you cannot blame it on the stubble burning issue, because Delhi's vehicular pollution and other pollution is a major contributing factor, because despite the stubble burning pollution coming to an all time low, Delhi has witnessed one of the worst AQIs in this winter yet again. So, we will understand the issue, and this issue is very important from a GS1 perspective, from a GS2 perspective, from a GS3. You can even expect a question in GS paper 4, right. You can expect a case study or something like that. It is important from prelims perspective, PM 2.5, PM 10, etc., etc., right. So, let us delve into this article to understand. So, some of the mains PYQs that you can see in GS paper 1, UPSC asked this question: Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata are 3 mega cities of the country, but air pollution is much more serious problem in Delhi compared to the other 2. Why is this so, right? So, now why this air, why Delhi chokes in winter? Geographically, the physical setting, if you look at Delhi, so Delhi is located in the Indo-Gangetic plain, a low lying basin that frequently experiences temperature inversion, isn't it? So, we face the issue of temperature inversion, right, in winter, where cool air is trapped near the ground level, and low wind speeds, particularly in winter, it reduces mixing of air, right. It prevents the vertical dispersion of these pollutants that have crowded at the ground level, right. So, under these conditions, the routine emissions from vehicles, the industries, the household, it accumulates very close to the surface, and that creates a big problem for the air quality index in Delhi, right. So, coming back to the topic, let us understand the topic in further detail. Now, what is the issue? Stubble burning incidents in Punjab and Haryana have fallen sharply to a 5-year low in 2025. The data is out now, even the Supreme Court has asked questions on this, right. Yet Delhi's air pollution this winter remains extremely high, showing that local sources are the main drivers of its pollution crisis. So, the data highlight that toxic levels of PM 2.5, NO2, CEO in Delhi are largely linked to local emissions such as vehicles, industry, construction, rather than from fires in the neighboring states. That so far was one of the political contentions between Delhi government and the governments of Punjab and Haryana, right. So, just as just stated that the stubble burning in myth has been there. So, if you look at the data of stubble burning, so the total recorded farm fires in Punjab and Haryana, they have fallen from 78,000, this is an approximate figure, to roughly 6,000 in the 2025 year. That is a 90% reduction, right. And the drivers of these reduction is that around 3,120 crores in budget, around 3,120 crores roughly approximately has been disbursed in 2018 for crop residue management. Another 2.68 lakh crop residue management machines, the happy seeders etc., has been distributed across states in both Punjab and Haryana. Another important factor is the recent floods in Punjab, right. So, the 2025 monsoon floods and waterlogging in these states, Punjab and Haryana, they have not only damaged crop but delayed harvesting. So, this has led to overall reduction in the stubble burning, and there we see in 2025 there is a 90% reduction, right. So, what are the local factors? I just mentioned few. So, what are the local factors that are creating year around pollution in Delhi? So, transport, high share of diesel vehicles, that is something that you need to note. Industry and power, clusters of the power industry that are there around Delhi NCR, including brick kilns, small industries that are there, they are a big source of pollutant. Road and construction dust. So, whenever the AQI reaches beyond a particular measure and we implement, when we go beyond GRAP 2, the Supreme Court orders or when the government takes measures under GRAP 3, it will automatically shut down construction, and also definitely construction dust is also a problem. Waste and biomass burning is another issue. Municipal waste, plastic, leaves, the biomass that is burnt in situ, and a small percentage of it is contributed from the agriculture burning that is happening in Punjab and Haryana, but this year that has been at an all time low. So, that is definitely not a factor, and now it proves the myth that stubble burning is not the real reason, it is the local emissions that is the problem for Delhi's worsening air quality index, and we have to find local solutions for it. Right. So, despite minimal farm fire incidents, Delhi recorded toxic levels of PM 2.5, NO2, CO, proving farm fires are not primary pollutant drivers. So, that is what the article asserts. Now, the Supreme Court also noted that even when paddy harvesting occurs, local sources remain the main contributor to Delhi's pollution crisis. Right. Okay. So, I just mentioned the local pollution source, the real culprits. So, this is just briefly highlighting it, you can note it down. Moving on to the next slide. So, what is happening is we are seeing emergence of pollution hotspots in Delhi. So, the article also talks about pollution hotspots in and across Delhi, and this local sources of PM 2.5, nitric oxide, carbon monoxide, etc. The nitric oxide, the nitrogen dioxide, it mainly comes from vehicle exhaust, and the combustion sources, carbon monoxide from incomplete combustion of vehicles, generators, scattered biomass burning, right. PM 2.5, fine particulate matter responsible for deep lung penetration, it systematically impacts your health. These are some of the sources of urban pollution in Delhi. So, now what we are going to understand is the spatial dimension, the hotspots that we can see in Delhi and widespread the areas of NCR, right. So, there are certain persistent hotspots in Delhi since 2018, when the monitoring has been very vigilant, and we have identified that there are total of 13 official pollution hotspots. These include areas such as Anand Vihar, Mundka, Wazirpur, Narela, RK Puram and many others, right. So, these hotspots are regions where the PM25 annually are extremely high, right. So, the key findings of this article and the report is that there are several NCR hotspots showed worse pollution levels compared to earlier years, indicating localized pollution intensification. So, we have seen in Bhiwandi, we have seen in Noida, Faridabad, it has been relatively low, right. Greater Noida, we have seen it has been low, but it has increased in Bhiwandi, right. So, what is the implication? The article clearly talks that the implication is that it is the local pollution control measures that need to be strengthened and targeted at the emerging hotspots to overall control the worsening air quality index in Delhi, right. Now, next slide. Right. So, what are the key takeaways and the policy imperatives that we can highlight here? So, the key takeaways that Delhi needs to shift focus from blaming farm fires to addressing local pollution sources through a stricter emission control, right. One of the biggest problems that Delhi is facing is the vehicular pollution, which probably contributes to more than 50% of your worsening AQI, right. We need, we have identified that vehicle pollution, industrial emission, construction dust, etc. are primary pollution drivers. They require immediate intervention. So, what we need is a multi-sectoral approach targeting the local hotspots. We see the in Delhi, when you monitor the AQI data, you will see that there are some hotspots where all of a sudden there is an acute rise in the AQI. So, we need to target these local hotspots, manage the traffic. We need to bring in industrial regulation for sustainable quality improvement over the years, right. So, that is the only way now, because the myth of farm fires is busted, right. So, overall there is a 15 steps to clear city air in Delhi. So, basically stubble burning, that is something that was previously there, but yes, in future also government will take efforts to curb it, but those are not such a big problem. So, what are the major problems? Dust pollution, anti-dust campaign to begin, right. Every year we do, the government does. So, dust pollution is there, vehicular emission, right, garbage burning, industrial pollution, right, pollution hotspots, firecracker ban is there. We see there is a GRAP enforcement in Delhi whenever pollution levels reach a particular threshold. We need pollution monitoring, real time data. So, we have seen that the quality of data and the reliability of data has been very questionable during this winter season. Paryavaran Mitras, right. So, we can have volunteers who can be inducted to raise awareness on air pollution, right. E-waste special park where e-waste will be scientifically processed in Delhi. Already if you see that there is a Holambi Kalan where it was in northwest Delhi where such a park is been created. Afforestation has been one of the major policy imperatives of China to control particularly the winds coming from Mongolia, to curb the dust coming from the deserts of Mongolia towards Beijing. So, definitely it has worked for China, it can even work for Delhi. So, that is something, right, we can do. 24/7 green war room, a 9-member team to analyze pollution data, etc. and take corrective steps, right. Green Delhi app and working basically with the neighboring states. So, these are some of the steps that Delhi government can take. Now, moving on to the next article. So, this particular article, the index for legislatures, it featured in the Indian Express, and the article basically hinges on the fact that for the democracy to deepen in India, we need an index through which we can measure the performance of legislatures by ranking them, ranking various states. It will strengthen the federal structure of India, it will strengthen parliamentary oversight, it will bring more confidence and trust, and it will improve outcomes at the legislative level. So, we will understand this article, what this article says, right. So, the article introduces the National Legislative Index. It has talked about a National Legislative Index, a new annual system to benchmark the productivity, transparency, innovation in India's state legislatures. So, the focus, see, right now you would be getting a lot of data from PRS, right, about the parliament. So, for parliament we have the procedures in place. There is a parliamentary secretariat working round the clock, which will give you data, what are the key outcomes, etc. So, for state legislatures we do not have a mechanism to quantify these data, and definitely since we do not have reliable data, we are not able to come up with an index which will measure that which states are performing better and which states are not, right. So, this article talks about National Legislative Index, and we will understand what the issues have been highlighted in the article in greater detail. Okay, so index for legislatures. So, the National Legislative Index, it is basically a proposed annual state-wise benchmarking system which will be to measure the productivity, transparency and innovation of state legislative assemblies and the councils. So, if you look at the present problems of state legislatures, So you will see that they typically meet for around 20 to 25 days a year. So if you get data from the PRS legislative research annual review of state laws 2024, there is a report. It shows that in 2024 the average number of days the state assemblies met was 20 days with about 100 hours of proceedings, right. The long term data from 2016 to 2021, it indicates that average number of days that the state legislature sit around the year is 25 across 23 states. So you can clearly see that the number of sittings is far less than the what should be there for the house to represent the population adequately, right. So the problem is that there is a culture of disruption and this is leading to erosion of trust. Now there are certain challenges that has crept into our parliamentary democracy. The rising criminalization of politics, it has led to falling quality of debates. The MPs and the MLAs who are basically getting selected, if you look at the data at the parliamentary level, it is the criminalization in politics is at an all time high, right. But the same is true for the state legislatures and the state legislative assemblies, right. So this national legislative index is going to measure the productivity by measuring the number of sittings, right, by ensuring transparency, by ensuring that adequate data on MPs and MLAs is there, right. And also it will lead to innovation, because when you have when you are collecting data, you will also collect best practices of certain state legislatures and state legislative assemblies and councils. So that will lead to innovation at the level of state legislative assemblies and councils. Moving on to the next slide. So what is going to be the definition in scope? So an annual state-wise benchmarking system to measure productivity, transparency, etc. So it will provide a transparent annual score between 0 to 100 scale for each house, which will promote healthy competition, it will accelerate adoption of best practices, etc. So the objective of this index is to measure the aspects of the parliamentary functioning. What are the key aspects of parliamentary, the legislature functioning basically? The legislature is supposed to debate and discuss on key policy issues, right. It is supposed to provide adequate representation to the issues of the people, right. And third is that it should be able to hold the government accountable. These are the very important key issues. So we will be measuring the outcomes across these parameters. For example, how many bills have been referred to the committees, right, how many bills have been discussed, and we will basically provide a score between 0 to 100 for each house, and this will help in assessing a healthy competition, it will accelerate adoption of best practices, etc. Moving on to the next slide. So key performance indicators that will be used in this index, so that you can note the productivity metrics would be the sitting days, the session duration, the number of bills passed, the procedure and processes that the assemblies and the councils have followed, the percentage of bills sent to committees, time taken to pass the bills, right. Basically time taken to assess, because you are basically trying to assess that the debate and discussion is happening, right. Then transparency and digitization, digital record keeping, paperless proceedings, technical integration. Then institutional reforms that have been taken, strengthening speaker's office, encouraging other forms of institutional reforms like strengthening the committee stage and various other types of reforms that are required at a assembly level. Now expected outcome and benefits. So what are the key outcomes and benefits that we can expect from this exercise, right. So the impact on the democratic governance, what it is going to be, it will accelerate adoption of best practices and peer learning amongst legislatures. So when we are going to rank these legislatures, when we are going to give a score, then we are going to just like we have an index to measure the Panchayati Raj devolution index, right. So we understand why Karnataka, Kerala, etc. are doing better in terms of grassroots governance compared to states like Uttar Pradesh or Bihar, etc. So similarly, it will adopt it will help accelerate adoption of best practices and peer learning amongst the legislatures. Second, it will encourage institutional reforms and strengthen role of Speaker's office. Speaker's office is one of the pivotal offices on which the functioning of the assembly legislature depends, right. Speaker's office, it needs to be bipartisan in nature, so very important, right, and other reforms also are required. It will promote transparency, digitization, technological integration, right. Definitely, if you are having adequate number of if you have very clear idea that how many bills have been sent to the committee, the number of days the assembly has met, the amount of time the assembly has spent on discussing a particular bill, etc. If you have all these data, it will definitely promote transparency, digitization. Definitely, we have the at parliamentary level we have the NEVA, and more technological integration is happening both at the parliament at the state level, right. Identify gaps and challenges for targeted improvement. So, it will also help other states which are not doing adequate to identify gaps, right, and induce various targeted interventions. So, this is it in this particular discussion on the mains topic. So, you can expect that such a question will definitely come this year. Parliamentary, the devolution index for Panchayati Raj was released by the Ministry of Panchayati Raj, and parliamentary democracy, it will strengthen automatically when it is strengthened at the other federal structures, at the grassroots level, the Panchayati Raj level, then at the state level, and that at the union level, right. So, this article is focusing on the state level, which is a very important crucial aspect of the federal structure. So, we will meet again in the next DNA session. Thank you.